Welcome to Real Chat with Kat, the podcast that's all about real conversations for real transformation. I'm your host, Kat Polsinelli, professional speaker, MC, and best-selling international author. Here, we tackle the tough stuff, the mud that we all have found ourselves in. We talk about the pivots, the challenges, and the victories that shape our lives and our businesses. From overcoming trauma and finding your voice to navigating life's unexpected twists, we get raw, honest, and open. You'll hear from inspiring guests who share their stories of resilience, healing, and growth. Whether it's breaking through emotional abuse, embracing self-worth, or thriving in entrepreneurship, you'll find connection, empowerment, and the tools to keep you moving forward. So grab your favorite drink, settle in, and get ready for stories that hit home and conversations that make a difference. Let's get real together. Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining me today on this episode of Real Chat with Kat. I am so excited to have you here with me today. Thank you so much for being a part of the podcast as we are now into year almost 3.5. It's been amazing to talk with so many amazing individuals, and I think we have a beautiful theme for the start of 2026 around empowerment and coming back to ourselves and really looking inward instead of outward and getting rid of all of the societal norms of New Year's resolutions and just all the things. Like, this has been a beautiful podcast, and Zerina is no different. So I'm so excited to have you on the podcast today. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me, Kat. Appreciate it.
Yes, I'm so excited. This is going to be a phenomenal conversation. And I think that a lot of people are going to relate to you as well, as far as like your backstory and where you kind of came from as well. So do us a favor, then tell everybody who you are and what it is that you do.
Yeah, so my name is Zerina Derveni, and I am a life coach. I coach women who are high achievers. And how I got into this whole journey is really interesting. Is really, I started probably like everyone else, millennials, climb the corporate ladder, go to school, like a lot of these traditional pathways to success, which I did. And I think each time, for me at least, it happened every 2, 3 years. I was getting this kind of inner voice. I call it the awakening now. But this inner voice, like something's off, like I have a greater purpose. But the reality of my life at that time was I need to work, I need to like, financially do well. So I kept ignoring it and ignoring it. And then, during COVID, which I'm sure everyone was reflecting and transitioning to other things in their lives, I got that moment where I was like, okay, hold on, this can't happen every 2, 3 years. Like something's wrong with me. So I started to get into coaching just from, self discovery in a sense of like learning more about personal development. I did a Tony Robbins seminar, actually. It was like 7 days, very, very intense. And
Nice.
that's like the first time I saw people having breakthroughs. And, there was a series of events that were happening in my life at that time, but really I had the aha moment. It was like a regular weekday, 9 p.m., where I'm like, oh my God, I need to coach because throughout my whole life, I achieved success. I followed the traditional playbook. I was very performative, did it really well, and didn't know I was in a performative state, right? I just thought I was doing well, and finally found a career path that I'm really good at. I think if you look at my journey in life, I was really good at that connection, finding clarity piece, and got into coaching. And honestly, I have never looked back. I've never felt more motivated and never worked harder too. And here I am now, helping women find their path, find their own journey. But really, it's that clarity and empowerment piece that I focus on with a lot of my clients.
I love this so much. And I think that especially like us as women or those that have been raised in environments where, academics and performance, for lack of better terms, became the way that we got love and stuff like that. I think that kind of, really sets the stage for that high performer, high achiever mentality from a really young age. Because I did the same thing. I did exactly what I was told to do. Once I graduated, I went straight into college like you're supposed to do. And from there, I went directly into that field and same thing, right? Like I enjoyed certain aspects of it, but there were always things that I was like, ah, but I knew like in my passion that helping people was definitely the thing. But do you see that, from your perspective and even your story, do you see that a lot of people that see this disconnect with where they're at and kind of where they want to go, do you feel like perfectionism and performance is kind of really stuck in there and maybe that's probably the one of the disconnects?
Absolutely. And you see it a lot, especially with people in their 30s and 40s, which is a lot
Mm,
of the age range that I start to coach. So they're coming to me when they're lost or stuck. And these are high performers and they're used to succeeding. They're used to being able to perform and get the results that they want. But finally, that alignment is catching up, or I guess, this alignment is catching up with them. And they don't know what to do because they've done things for so long a certain way. That's no longer working, right?
mm,
And now, part of the coaching program that I have, there's this piece that we all hate it. It's called the unlearning. It's the uncomfortable, scary, messy stage, and you have to go through it in order to really get to the other side. But once we talk about the unlearning, it's like foreign to them, but it's like, but wait, but I did this, and now I'm not getting these results anymore. And I'm like, yeah, there is a misalignment internally, right? We got to really like look into what's going on, where you're at. You can't operate, from a place that you were operating 10 years ago. Things have changed. Your
yeah.
values have changed. Your goals have changed. So I think a lot of people, honestly, they get stuck to this idea of success and performative um, steps to get to success. And then in their 30s, I'm finding in 40s, that's when like a transition or an upgrade needs to happen. And if they're not aware of that, they're going to take that as failure when really it's a reminder that, we need to shift and do things differently.
Yeah. Oh, that makes a lot of sense. And I love that you threw failure in there because I feel like, and the first thing that came to me was those that also find themselves in now the widely used term burnout. So, like, do you consider this a part of that, or do you even believe in the word burnout? Because I have met some people that don't really agree with that either. Like you're saying, they feel like it's more of this misalignment and just not working on ourselves because we're still so focused on the outside.
Yeah, no, I definitely believe in burnout. I've experienced it myself twice, right? And I think a burnout led to me making a lot of changes the first time on setting boundaries, understanding that I can't be everywhere or at the same time or do so many things. So burnout definitely exists, and I think it's different for different, people's experiences where they're
Hmm.
either coming because they are like emotionally very lost or they're just exhausted. So you get a range of different experiences. I don't think like because you're feeling confused or lost or stuck, it is always a reflection of burnout. But a lot of times it is because the way I see life now is if you have a purpose and you're clear on that purpose, and everyone has a different type purpose, right? It's not always professionally led.
Hmm.
You know that the energy that you have day by day will be put towards your purpose or purposes. So, for you to get burnout is just not as common as someone who's just misaligned. Like they'll get burned out everywhere because they don't have a clear compass of what they're working towards. Or,
Mm.
I use the word intention a lot. Is what is your intention? Like if you're going to work, and not to say that everyone's going to have this like crazy purpose or passion of a career. That's not realistic. But if you're going to work, what is your intentions? If you're building a relationship, what is your intention? If you're building a community of network, like whether it's friends or colleagues, what is your intention? And lead with intention, and that will give you a purpose. So, yeah, burnout happens. It's a very, very real thing. I see it happen a lot with women. And I think there is a misalignment of purpose and intention when that happens.
And I love that you're saying intention because I never thought about that this way. And this is really interesting. So, I think of the things that we do on a regular basis, right? Whether it's hanging out with friends or going into a job that we've had for the last 10, 15 years, whatever the case may be. And it becomes such a habitual pattern that there isn't a much thought of it. There isn't much, like you're saying, intention behind it. You're not setting yourself up for the day. You're not really making yourself aware of those items, which I do think can be very stressful because then you're very much more reactive to situations. And I think that that's another reason why, like you were saying earlier, people feel like they have failed instead of understanding that it might be something within the environment. So this is actually really cool because I've never thought of it that way. Because I think about all the years that I was in the medical field and, I enjoyed a lot of what I did. And I can't tell you how many days that I know I just like got up and did the same thing. I went to the gym first and I got dressed and I went to work and I smiled and I knew what I was dealing with patients and like it was almost like you're a robot, right? And like you get to this space where you're just like, "Oh my gosh, this is so boring. Like there's got to be more to it." But I never thought about like setting an intention in that regard, even in like you're saying relationships, dating, when you're going home, like just things to make you more mindfully aware. Do you think that that is maybe something that is super helpful, or does that have something to do with playing into your unlearning of things?
Yeah, absolutely. I actually love the example that you brought up, in your previous experience, you going to work and kind of feeling like a robot. This is where the value system really helps because, again, let's face it, a lot of us are doing the same thing over and over again, especially if you're a responsible adult and you have routine. Once you have a value system, you can understand what that is. And I don't mean like, what do you like? It's an intense exercise where we look at your values, and these are behaviors that you naturally do and want to attract. So I'll give you an example. Like my top three values are connection and love, contribution, and growth, right? Those are my top three. Connection and love is I like to work with people, or I, even on my personal time, spend time with people that I feel a connection with. And then there is this genuine love. Doesn't mean I'm going to love you 24/7, but there is a genuine connection. So
Hmm.
if that's a value of mine, no matter what I'm doing, even if I'm doing something robotic, I try and bring that out more in my day to day because I know it's something I value. Growth, what are little things that I can learn where I can feel like I'm, upgrading myself because I truly like that, right? Contribution, what value can I bring? So it's like having that intentional internal compass where it's like, okay, even if I do this day to day, what are things I can do more that I gravitate towards that I actually value? Because then, that's different than just doing the same thing unintentional and kind of becoming like a robot. So it's asking yourself, part of the unlearning, it's going into the subconscious. A lot of our, emotions, behaviors, habits, so many things are stored in the subconscious. So
Hmm.
I know a lot of us are not upgrading that or looking into that. We're just living life on autopilot. And what you can do that's different, just a small step, is okay, what do I really value? Like, what are my top three or top four? I'm really big on having top 10, but know your top three. So you can make decisions day to day, very small ones, doesn't have to be drastic, and bring more of that enlightenment in you, because I think that's really the journey to really exploring and learning more about yourself. And more importantly, attracting opportunities if you live more within your values around you that you don't necessarily see at the moment, but who knows?
Yeah. And I love the usage of values. I don't think that we talk in terms of value. We talk in terms of things that we like or we want or we feel like we need. And so, for anybody listening, like Google, look up like what the word value means. It's very different than what we probably think that it means,
Mm-hmm.
because we're conditioned to know our wants and our needs. But this to me, values are very much deeper. It's this core belief, this core understanding that you keep coming back to. For me, to use an example, When I was in the medical field, one of the reasons I went into the medical field was because I love helping people. And even when I left the medical field and got into real estate, I did it because I wanted to be able to help people. And then I
Mhm.
transitioned into coaching and speaking. It's same thing, right? Like I enjoy helping people. That was one of those core things that I held very firm through everything that I did. And I love that you use Tony Robbins values because I was just watching a thing on he was on Diary of CEO
Yeah.
a little bit ago, and I was watching that episode, and I love this. Another person that is really big on values is Brene Brown. And so she
Yes.
has like a whole values worksheet where you can pick out your top ones and then start kind of deleting them so you can get up to your top three. But I love that you have like an overall top 10 because I do think that one, as we shift and turn and depending on situations that we're in, those values can lean more one way than the other. And I think that for a lot of people starting at like only three, it's almost overwhelming to be like, I can only put in this big of a box versus like
Right. Having
this big of
so
a
many.
box.
Yeah, yeah. It's so true. And it's an exercise I definitely incorporate in my coaching. And I start with like this slide. I have about 50 of them just to get, someone to start thinking. And obviously they can go and choose their own values. But it's so easy to pick 20. It's so easy to then narrow it down to 10. But once you start top three, it gets scary. But the idea here is to go through that and get raw with yourself because it will become eventually, the more you do this, it will become a compass for your decision making. So at the
Mm-hmm.
end of the day, when you're looking to attract a new opportunity at work, when you're looking to attract, a new partner, a new friend, that value system will kick in. It will be a reminder. It's like, hey, Zerina, do you really want this? Or is it more of like, something that you value? Because a lot of times we're so overwhelmed right now more than ever, and it's just going to get
Mm-hmm.
worse with technology, with options. So it's really about staying true to yourself and making sure that you are exploring options that really, you'll get your ROI and you'll get what's in alignment with you. So having this idea of values, it's really bigger than most people think, at least in the coaching space. It's making sure that that's ingrained in you. Even if it changes, values do change as
Yeah.
you change in life, but it's making sure that you're making decisions that are really in alignment with your values.
And I love that you said values and wants as
Hmm.
well. My immediate thought was, when we talk to someone about doing something, let's say going out for the weekend, right? And that there's no way that you really want to do that. But the overwhelming feeling of letting someone down or making sure that they like you or not allowing them to be disappointed in you means that, essentially, right, we're throwing our values or even our wants and needs out the window for other people. And essentially you find yourself in a space like where I was living for everyone else except for me because that's what I thought that was the way to serve people, right? I just said yes to everything. I was always helpful when I needed to be. I obviously was there for my kids, but anytime I could stretch myself thin, I was like, oh yeah, no, no, of course. Versus now, which has taken a really long time, and I still work on this, is hearing what somebody is saying or hearing about an opportunity and really kind of thinking on it before giving an immediate answer. And I think that that's something that, especially like you were saying with social media, we have instant gratification, we have everything instantly at our fingertips. So I feel like we think in that direction as well. Like, okay, if somebody asks me something, I should have an answer within, 5 seconds. If somebody says you want to do something, I should be able to tell them right then and there versus being comfortable enough to give yourself space to think on something for a second, let it process, right? And
Right.
then be able to give an actual yes, no, or whatever it may be, versus like we talked in the beginning, where that reactionary space kind of comes in. And a lot of those old beliefs are still kind of lingering every once in a while, right? Where it's like, oh, but what if they don't like us? Oh, yeah, sure. No, I will totally do that. I think that it's so important to, like you're saying, because we are so overwhelmed to make that space to take that time because we are definitely in a space where we take in so much information and the brain can't take it all in anyway. Um,
Yeah.
but there are ways to be able to help with those, right, as well. There are ways to pre-plan for certain things, and that way you're not making so many decisions, especially on a day-to-day basis, right? I know, and I can't think of his name right now, but it talked about decision fatigue within a 24-hour period and how many decisions our brain is actually able to make throughout the day, and being very aware of that because we have so much being thrown at us, all at one time, needing to make a decision. And it's really funny because, when I always thought about this, I thought, okay, well, like, yeah, big decisions like, are we going to go out with friends? Are we going to do this? But it's like every little minute thing from what you're going to have for breakfast to what you're going to wear for the day, to what you're going to do when you come home, or if you have kids, what are your kids going to eat? What are they going to wear tomorrow? Do they have homework? Like all these little things are small decisions, but it starts to add up to the point to where you're just like, I can't. Like it's 6:30 at night, 7 o'clock at night, and I can't make any more decisions. But again, there are ways around that as well to simplify what feels like a very chaotic life.
Right. And I really think that's the goal. I love that you said that. Simplify things, right? Simplify it according to your values, simplify it according to your reality, and quiet the noise. But this is so easy for me to say, but it's so hard to do. And a lot of women, we're all kind of facing the same challenges of being people pleaser. Some of us are still in that survival mode when we were younger. We can't get out, and we think that if we get out, we're missing opportunities or we're not being
Mm,
our best self. So there's just so many things there to unpack that I think speaks to a lot of women's experience still, right? Even knowing logically, like, this is not good for me. It's how do we shift our actual behavior? How do we shift our mindset? How do we shift our habits? And really it is one of those growing journeys. And as a life coach, I see moments where I can like step in and tell, a client like this and this will happen if you continue this journey. But I like to step
mm,
away and allow the client to go through their own journey so that when they are experiencing, a hurdle, or they're experiencing a pattern that is self-sabotaging, it's a good opportunity to talk about it, because until you actually feel it and see it and are ready to receive it, we'll miss it. We'll think what we're doing on autopilot is the right thing. And a lot of us are honestly doing the best that we can. But if you don't take matters into your hands of understanding, like what is really a priority, where your energy efficiency should be spent, then you're going to really continue this cycle of over analyzing everything, having like all these decision making that you think are like overwhelming. You're going to make it more complicated for yourself, when in reality, like, there is decisions to be made that are simple, should be simple. And then there are medium to harder decisions that should be made, and that's where you having the right tools, values being one of them, support network being another one, in place, will help you. So when you get to those moments, everything can be a bit more seamless, right? Versus you, again, operating from a place that you used to do a couple of years ago or a decade ago. So, but a lot of the challenges that I deal with coaching women is this, like, they're overwhelmed, their nervous system is all over the place. They don't
mm,
have clarity, right? And a lot of times, clarity, there's three factors that you need to consider when you're unclear or feeling lost or stuck, even overwhelmed. It's your environment, it's your motivation, it's your mindset. What does your environment look like? I think we all know environment's important, but are we really cleaning up the environment? Are we doing that every year? Right?
mm,
Mindset. Are we motivated? No. If we're not, then we're not in the right, maybe around the right people, or maybe in the right opportunity at work. Like, something's going on when your motivation is not low, and you need to really consider, like, what can I do right now to get the motivation back? And a lot of times it's going back to that greater purpose, right? Not feeling greater purpose. What is your purpose? And then obviously mindset, right? How are we shifting our mindset? Are we upgrading our mindset? Are we living to a higher vibration? How do we get there? Well, first, let's do the work. Let's research. Let's find out, what those tools and strategies are to even have a mindset shift, right? So I think a lot of these things, again, they sound easy in theory, but it's starting small. It's knowing yourself. It's a lifetime journey. It's not a quick fix. But if you
Yeah.
develop a process that works, then you can, make sure the next time you go through a similar experience, which you will, you'll be more prepared and you'll know how to get yourself out of it or through it.
Yeah, and I love that you're talking about the small movements and the small things that we can do. We live in a world, especially with social media, I feel like, where we get to blow everything out of proportion.
Yeah.
That's just my personal opinion. But we get to blow everything out of proportion. We get to make it seem like it's better and more amazing than, what's really going on because we want more people to like us, to think whatever about us. But unfortunately, for a lot of us that are following those accounts, that are paying attention to those things, we're getting caught in like, okay, well then I should have the big breakthrough. I should have the promotion that just takes me beyond, or I should have the, financial gain that just, through the roof and it solves all of my problems. Like you said, a quick fix. I feel like we've been conditioned, especially with the way that social media is, your ads, all of your stuff that you see on TV and like everything is, if you do this for 7 minutes, you could be this. And if you do this for 15 minutes a day, like you could be like, there's so many, and not to get like, I love everybody listening, but there's things like, oh, if you take this pill, it's going to help you lose weight. Like everybody is looking for the quick way to get to the results that they want, but doing the work feels too difficult. So, and you're right, like this is when you decide to step into the path of personal development and learning about yourself and deciding to grow, no matter how small it is, you do have to understand that it is a day-to-day thing that you're going to do for the rest of your life. It's not something that's just going to fix and then your life is going to be great from here on out. Like that's not how life works anyway, right? We go through challenges and certain things because we're supposed to learn the lessons so that we know what to avoid or be aware of next time or be able to pass that information on to other people. Like that is part of the cycle of life. And to be honest, I think if everything was great and amazing all the time, I think it would end up being boring and we wouldn't appreciate the beauty in it because now you're like, yeah, I mean, I know, yeah, this is gonna be great. No, yeah, this is gonna be wonderful once this out. Like you get to the place of predictability, which kind of sounds really strange when you think of how certain we all want to be, how much predictability we want to have in our lives, because that's the way our brain is done. But then at the same time, if we actually had that, we wouldn't enjoy it because then there is no gratitude, there is no visually understanding or seeing or emotionally connecting to anything. It just eventually becomes a habit. It becomes something on repeat, like we're doing every single day of our life, even if it's good.
It's so true. Honestly, I couldn't agree. And I'm not one of those coaches that will be like, you know what will make you happy? I really stay away from emotions because again, emotions are so fleeting. They come in, they come out. They're
Hmm.
important. I just don't lead with emotions. And our brain is so intelligent, it could trick us to even think that we're maybe not as happy or not as pleased or you know what I mean? Like it can really
Yeah.
like trick us into feeling these emotions even let's say one afternoon I'm scrolling through Instagram, subconsciously my brain is wiring, oh, you don't have that. Oh, you don't do this. Oh, who knows? And then in the evening I could be sad, but am I really sad or is my brain tricking me? So, and I'm speaking about, those who are in a healthier state of mind, but I really lead with purpose. And I think you're right. I think emotions are there. They're there to guide us in a sense of like, okay, this is what I'm feeling, acknowledging it and then maybe doing something about it, but leading it with purpose, leading it with action, a greater goal. And in life, I always say this with my clients, especially during the beginning. They'll come to me and they'll give me a very, very valid reason why they're feeling stuck or lost. And I will always say, yes, I understand. You're on the right path. No wonder you're feeling like that. Now let's work towards a goal that's achievable. But before we even get there, who are you? What do you want? And then they freak
Mm-hmm.
out because I don't give them the quick fix. And it's not about the quick fix. And this is where really being in a state of mind of ready to receive is important Because if you're ready to receive and do something that's impactful for you, and stay away from these quick fixes. Sure, sometimes you need them in life, but like not when it comes to your personal development or even professional development. You want to make sure that what energy efficiency you have and what investment you're putting in, there is a greater purpose long term. And that's really where purpose, plays in. It's what do you want to do? And it doesn't have to be this, big answer that's like, I want to be the best. It could be small, and small is good, and it could be
Yeah.
something that to you is important, and that's all that matters, right? But yeah, I find a lot of times, we're leading or thinking or attracting subconsciously these achievements are just not achievable, and we think we want them, but I think we're more wired by it, by our environment, including social media, including what our friends are doing, including what we think in theory is good. But until you actually experience life and until you actually live in reality and living your truth, that's when the real magic starts to happen. And it doesn't happen right away. It starts to happen by you creating value and creating value consistently. Then you'll get the, I'm going to say this in quotation mark, external validation that's appropriate for you, not
Mm,
this like superficial, you know, quick fix or quick feeling of external validation. So life really is a journey, and I think we're so quick to rush the journey. I mean, you probably hear this so many times, and it's like it comes back to you, and it's like you understand as you get older and as you go through more obstacles and good times and challenges how impactful that journey is. And, I look at success differently right now and probably will look at it differently in a decade. But right now, I'm really building on this life where I'm like, I want to get up and live my day, right? I want to get up
mm,
and be happy and have freedom. And like, sure, yes, there are going to be moments of that, but I want to build a life. To me now, success is getting up and enjoying my day. It's having the coffee. It's talking with my clients. It's having a partner I'm compatible with. Not crazy chemistry, but compatible with. It's building a life that I genuinely want to wake up in the morning and live it, even if I'm tired. And that's success. Whereas I think I've used success previously in my last decade, money, friends, people liking me, material things, like, just things that now don't really have that value anymore.
yeah. And I think that oh, there's so many things I want to unpack right here. But when we talk about success, I think that's a really important thing to bring up is defining what that means for each one of us, not what we grew up thinking that that was supposed to be, right? I think that we do all kind of fall into a space at some point in time where all of the physical aspects and the external things are or should be what completes life. And then we find out, especially like you're saying, in 30s and 40s, because I've started to realize this over the last couple of years that like there's just a lot of things I just don't care to make time for, right? Because I value my time now and I want to spend it in a way that makes sense for me, right? Like for me, one of my things now is um my husband and I both work throughout the week and I might do some stuff on like Saturday occasionally, but I try to keep my weekends for us because that's when he's off. But like Sundays is like off limits. Like Sundays is I am gonna be lazy, and if I feel like answering emails, I will. If not, I'm gonna go lay out in the sun if it's warm out. Or I'm gonna go, drive around town and experience something. Like I make that space completely away from everything else because I want to enjoy that time, not feel like every single day that I have is rushed into something else. So I love this idea of enjoying living life every single day, no matter what that means, right? And everybody is a different space in their journey, right? Right now, for living for you, y'all, this is driving me crazy. Everything is like staticky and it's sticking in my hand. But For everybody it's different. So you may have someone that, for them it's I decided to get out of bed today, right? And that's the beginning of their journey. And that's amazing because that means that you are deciding to do something different and you're deciding to choose how you want to move forward in your life instead of allowing life to choose for you, right? You have other people that are probably going to start new habits, especially now that we're in this new year, that decide they want to get healthy or they want to do something else, and that's amazing. And just because you're not doing that doesn't make you any less of in that space. It just means that your journey is different. And I think that that is the beauty that I wish we talked about more, is how neat it is and how amazing it is that we are all doing different things and we can all be on different timelines, but like all at the same time. Like to me, I think that is crazy and cool at the same time because you can meet someone that is younger in their life who has a lot of knowledge, a lot more than, someone that maybe is older, or vice versa. You meet someone that is older, but they've experienced so much and they're just willing to share it. Like, it's just really cool to see that, I have now learned that we don't have a timeline, right? We can start over whenever
Yeah.
we want. We can choose to do something different whenever we want. We can choose to start something completely and brand new whenever we want. We just have to be the one to choose to make that decision, which, like you said, sounds easy. And it's not always. Like, I get it, right? There are times
Mhm.
even now where I fall off of the horse for a little bit and I'm like, oh, what happened? And I have to reassess and then decide, what I'm going to do. Do I want to go back to doing those same habits? Do I want to maybe shift something up a little bit and do something a little different? Like, where do I feel like being in that moment? And I think that it's that space of grace versus judgment that is super helpful for us inward and outward, when we're thinking about doing something different.
Yeah. Oh, I love what you said there. And, part of growth that I often share is it's never linear. People have this idea. Again, it's going back to theory and experience. Experience is powerful. Theory sounds great, but it's not realistic. Growth is never linear. So growth has ups and downs, just like we as human beings in seasons. Some seasons are tough, some seasons are easier, some seasons are great. So you want to be able to live in those seasons and you want to be able to live in growth where it's not a linear path. It's ups and downs. Now, what's important here is kind of bringing it back to what is your intention? What do you want out of life? What
Mm,
do you really want to do? And I think that's where a lot of us maybe lose motivation because the moment we're not doing something that we think is growth oriented, right? Let's say we have a week or two where we're just low in motivation, and that's okay. That's okay. Accept it and know that in 2 weeks you can pick it back up and you can
yeah.
pick it back up, sorry, at a pace where you're at. So it doesn't have to be this like all the time you're on. It's kind of going back to staying away from being performative, right? And kind of to being and understanding that this is your journey. You set the rules, you set the pathway to it. Just be real with yourself. And I think a lot of times, and I have these conversations with my clients, and I do it in a compassionate way because I was once in that seat. It's, do you really want it? Because if you really wanted it, we wouldn't be talking here about why you're not doing it. We would be talking about a path forward to it. Like, what are your intentions? I had still have a client, sorry, but I had a client meeting a couple weeks ago, and this is one of my really high performing client, and she worked so damn hard at her job. Like she will put in 10, 12 hours. We've all done it, but she doesn't have an
Hmm.
intention long term of why she's doing it. She's just doing it day to day to do really well at her job. I said to her, if you continue this, you're going to go on a burnout. You're at a stage in your life where you actually need to find a partner, build a family, because that's part of her goals. You're not going to do that. The job that you're doing right now with not much intention behind it is going to take up so much of your energy. You're going to then, not really be able to pursue these beautiful family goals that you have, these beautiful partnership goals. So it's like having that conversation where it's like, right now, let's get real. What do you want? And if you don't know, that's okay, but we need to put in really serious boundaries at work right now because it's taking up a lot of your energy. So,
Mm,
being able to receive something like that, it's not easy because you're doing what you think is best. But this is where, for me as a coach, it's really important to be able to show some of those blind spots and help other women not waste time that I wasted in my journey, where it's like, okay, you don't need to change right now. You don't need to have goals set tomorrow or even in 3 months, but let's change what you're doing. Let's shift where your energy is going day to day if it's not, in a path that you really want. And all of us have desires that are maybe different. Like your desires may be different from my desires, and everyone else has different desires and goals. Let's just be true and live to them. And I think if it's like one message, that's one that I really try to empower clients is like, I don't have the playbook to living a great life. I have the playbook to how to get to clarity and live a life of more alignment. And that's really where the value of growth is. Everything else, like the human experience, it's going to be different for everybody. So there is not this like blueprint to having the perfect life. And I think
right.
sometimes, yeah, sometimes subconsciously that could like eat at us or think that there is, but the
Yeah.
human experience is life is different for everybody.
Yeah, I love this idea of not having a blueprint because I feel like so many times like we're just like please just give me the answer, right? Raising kids. I was like, "Where's the book? Where is the
Oh,
book?"
I
But
could
you're so
imagine.
right. Accepting our journey, I think, is also the beginning of learning to accept ourselves for where we're at instead of putting a mask on and pretending for everyone else, right? And that is going to shift a lot of things in your life from people that you decide to be around and not be around to the job that you're at that maybe you need to leave and do something else. And that's okay as well. I think that we get in a space of not knowing, and that is scary. And it always is, and it always will be. But I always think of like everything you've ever done your entire life, at one point you didn't know, but you did it so you could learn, right? When you learned to speak, like you didn't know how to do that. That was very uncertain, but you chose to do it. If you decided to ride a bike, right? You didn't know what on earth you
Mhm.
were doing. If you're like me, you crash and burn and everything. But you decided to do it anyway, right? Those that decide to swim and scuba, like every experience that you have had up until this point, I challenge you to think about what did you feel in the very beginning, right? Where did you see yourself? What were those feelings? What were those thoughts? And then think on what made you decide to move forward, because ultimately that is part of your life experiences. You are always going to hit spaces where you're like, oh, this sucks. This is uncomfortable. I don't know what's going to happen. But it's not the first time that has happened. Your entire life has been like that. We just get comfortable, and comfortable is easy, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
Zerina, I can't thank you enough for all of the stuff you have shared. Go ahead and share any last thoughts that you have, because I know I like left in a like a anyway, and then I want you to share with everyone, where they can find you and everything as well. But please add your thoughts.
Yeah, no, I love your I guess metaphor on how we first you feel when we're learning how to do something new, like riding a bike or just whatever it is. We're so fearful of the uncertainty. And I think, a lot of what I see is the moment that we're a little bit lost or confused, this idea of uncertainty becomes so fearful, and we all of a sudden become almost like childlike. We're so scared, to try something new, or we're just constantly wanting to be in control to control the outcome of an uncertainty. But the reality is, life is full of uncertainty. And I don't think uncertainty is the issue. I think, again, it goes back to clarity and you being aligned with who you are
Mm,
regardless of what's around you and what you're making and what you're working and all that stuff. It's getting that clarity of who you are, how you want to make decisions, what do you want to attract. These are all kind of like how, why, what questions that we can all do in our own time, right? We don't necessarily need to go through breakthroughs to get there, but breakthroughs do force you to get there. So just know with uncertainty, it will always be there. And instead of like trying to avoid it or be a step ahead of uncertainty, let's look at building some resilience and taking that the same way that we, learned how to ride a bike, where it's like, I'm sure I'll be able to, be uncomfortable for the first few tries, but I'll get better at it and I'll excel just like I've done in life. And I think it's having that same framework, that same mindset as we had when we were children. We were way more resilient, right? And then all of a sudden we become adults and we're like much more fragile, when it's like, no, let's keep building on that resilience. And I think resilience is something you can control. And, I would say to people, uncertainty is probably the number one thing a lot of us fear, men and women, ironically. And it's the number one thing that does not change. We will always, live in uncertain times. It's just the reality of life. So how do we shift our mindset to be a bit more adaptable and resilient by keeping, the core of our identity and values, kind of anchoring that?
Yeah. Oh, beautifully said. I love coming back to self. I love coming back to you as the individual, which then reflects your values and beliefs and things like that. Um, we're definitely in a space where arguing and making sure your point is heard has become more than hearing the inner wisdom of ourselves. So I'm all for this. I think that 2026 is really about getting back to ourselves. I've already seen this on the podcast as well. So thank you so much for sharing all of your knowledge here in the podcast. Please tell everyone though, Zerina, how can they find you? How can they follow you? How can they be in your world? And then I know that you have a freebie you would like to offer to
Yeah.
everyone as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you again for having me, Kat. I know we've had wonderful offline conversations too, so it's a pleasure to have been here today and have this conversation. For anyone looking to look up my services or just see what type of coaching I do, my website is usually the quickest way to contact me. It's zerinalifecoach.com, and I've got a list of different types of services that I offer there. I'm really big on one-on-one sessions with clients, so if it makes sense, please feel free to contact me. There is a contact tab there, and we'll set up a call and talk. But for any of the listeners listening to this, I'm offering a special promotion. So anyone that wants to do an hour free life strategy call, please DM me on my Instagram. It's Zerina Life Coach. And when you DM me, just if you can add the Lotus effect there, so I know where you're coming from and they're your audience. And what we can do in that 1 hour call, it's, obviously for an hour, it's hard to get through a lot of things, but really what I can help is I can help provide some guidance or even understanding of where you are in life. And I'm really good at, being, as much as I am very logical and practical in my coaching, I'm very intuitive and I'm able to read in between the lines. So I can really help you at least create some sort of short path to clarity at that time being in that 1 hour. So I'm excited for anyone that wants to, contact me and have that conversation.
Yay! I'm so excited for that. And you, to anyone listening, like, one, we will have all of Zerina's information inside the show notes. We'll make it super easy for you guys to find and connect with her. And two, you would be amazed at what kind of breakthroughs and things that you can have in just an hour with the right person that knows how to guide you through those questions and stuff. So, Zerina, thank you so much for joining today.
Thank you so much for having me.
You are so welcome. And like I said, don't forget, as everybody as following and everything, be sure that you are following Zerina as well. And like I said, get in contact with her, especially if you feel called to. And until next time, do one thing positive for someone each and every day and see the difference that it makes in your life. Catch you later. Thank you so much for tuning in to Real Chat with Kat today, where real stories meet real solutions. If you love today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave us a review on Apple, and share this with someone who may also need to hear this as well. Let's also keep the conversation going. Follow me on socials at The Lotus Effect, connect with our incredible guests, and remember, you are never alone. Your story matters, and you have the ability and the power to rewrite it. You always have a choice. Until next time, stay strong, stay inspired, and keep showing up as the incredible, unstoppable